Have you ever had a boss that insisted on changing the truth no matter what you said or did? Have you ever wondered how things would or might have played out if you would handle the situation differently? You're about to listen to an example of a manager that refuses to be reasonable. Listen closely.
Hello.
John Doman.
Calling for the Washington State Department of Health and the We're gathering information on the health and safety of Washington residents. Your phone number has been chosen randomly, and your answers will be used only for public health research. Call is being monitored and recorded for voluntary control.
Did you not hear me the first time when I asked you to remove me from your list and quit calling me?
I have just a few questions to find out if you are eligible for the study and at the same time talk to you.
Are you honestly not listening to me right now? I would like to talk to your supervisor. So now you're going to be quiet.
This is supervisor.
That you're absolutely not listening to me, so give me your supervisor now.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
All right, what stands out to you?
What do you mean?
I don't mean anything. I'm not suggesting anything at all right now. I'm asking you your interpretation of that recording.
The first time she talked and I was talking, so I was continuing to talk. I wasn't sure what she was saying. She said it very quickly.
Okay.
I feel like I was being led, for one thing, and I feel like that entire recording is staged. Not the recording itself, but the interaction. I feel like it was staged.
Oh, like it wasn't a real person. It was a
No, that's not
like
what
a-
I mean.
like a mystery shopper kind of thing.
That's not what I mean either.
Okay.
But I mean that I feel like it was staged. I mean that. I can't respond to somebody trying to talk over me, and I can't get a quantifiable response from somebody that's not really going to say anything. So I did not have. She said it too quickly for me to have had the ability to respond. The only thing I could do was to continue, as after the first thing she said.
Okay.
And so the second time, when she said that, I'd have to listen to that again for what I was saying. Sorry.
Just real quick, the weak sounding voice in the recording is mine, the other is the manager. We're listening to a recording of a phone call that was made in an outbound call center. He wants me to agree that I made an error in how I handled the call, but in reality, we both know that I did what I was taught.
What I was saying. Sorry.
No problem. It's short.
Hello. I am
John Doman.
calling for the Washington.
And I was calling refusals for the record. They were all refusals.
That is good to know.
Quit calling me.
We're gathering information on the health and safety of Washington residents. Your phone number has been chosen randomly, and your answers will be used only for public health research. This call is being monitored and recorded for voluntary control.
Did you not hear me the first time when I asked you to remove me from your list and quit calling me?
I have just a few questions to find out if you are eligible for the study and at the same time talk to you.
Are you honestly not listening to me right now? I would like to talk to your supervisor. So now you're going to be quiet.
This is supervisor.
That you're absolutely not listening to me, so give me your supervisor now.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Alright, so at that point I coded it as a hard refusal because that was quantifiable. She was saying, no, they absolutely not listening to me. I couldn't interpret one way or the other what she was actually asking for a supervisor as far as I'm concerned. But I'm a data collector here. I know she said the word supervisor, and I might have forgotten to write down the master at the end and said that she said the word supervisor. But that would have been the actual protocol would be something close to that. But she wasn't actually asking to speak to the supervisor, as far as I was concerned anyways. she was doing what was called a hard refusal at that point. The second time second time she spoke, I was getting there. Second time she spoke, I had one sentence left, and I was like, "It's the same time to talk with you now," and because I didn't have anything else to say to her. I mean, she was not agreeable, but she was not responding in a way that I could quantify up until right after that. And the reason I wouldn't have given the supervisor to her is because she would just shout it at her and she'd yell at her, giving her a hard time for no reason at that point. That's the reason that I asked, what would you like to say to the supervisor?
Right.
So just to see if there was something that she had, that was other than all the obvious. And there wasn't, so I quoted it as a hard refusal because that was what the protocol was.
Gotcha.
So as far as what stands out to me is that she was being very difficult.
I agree. She was difficult. I mean, she didn't get to the point where she was like one of the people to swear at you and stuff. She was still in control of at least using full sentences without swear words and stuff like that. Now pretend you're in
Central call center location.
your quality and you're listening to this. Then would you evaluate it differently that way than explaining to me your perspective?
I would evaluate it the same way, not exactly the same way, but you have to consider that I have a whole stack of quality monitors that was just handed, most all from the same day, all of which contain instances of me speaking to or responding in a similar mindset with different similar situations that were quantitative as far as that's concerned, and because of that's the false objection there, or the false I'm speaking too slowly is indicative of something that is not my fault. Is me doing my job correctly and not incorrectly.
Yeah, I'm not even worried about how fast you were.
So as far as
Central call center location.
just listening to that, I wouldn't be able to identify something that I did wrong. Maybe we don't want our respondents to be that way. So bad interviewer, maybe, but I don't know.
Gotcha. So I think so now for me looking at it, I could calling refusals difficult. I'm already with you on that one. To be honest, my first thought was I was a little surprised that we went through and had that specific refusal list, but I mean, I guess I've seen it before, so I mean, I understand, I guess. First time it was short and quick. I do agree, and if I was talking while I heard that, there is a chance that I wouldn't have noticed that that's what she said. Now the second time though, I don't know. I haven't been on the phones here, so I don't know 100% what the standard protocol is for someone asking for a supervisor.
Now, if you listen very closely, you might notice how the boss in our scenario is going out of his way to try to lead me into a trap by both acknowledging the protocol that is already in existence and acting like there is something else going on. Not so sneaky, but let's see what direction he's going with it.
Now, my guess would be that you go get a supervisor. Is that not the standard protocol?
If somebody is asking to speak to a supervisor, generally that's what you would do.
Okay. So in this instance, why didn't you just grab
Said individual.
Because she was very upset and she was probably just going to yell at her, which is the reason that it only took a couple more seconds for me to prove that.
Right.
So the reason I didn't go grab
Said individual.
was because I would have felt it would have been rude to connect her to somebody that's in that mindset and that's just going to shout and yell at her or whatever, and it wouldn't have accomplished anything. It wouldn't have meant anything at all. So that's the reason that I got her to say that. Because that way I have a recording that would prove it to a degree, and so I could at least explain myself.
Okay.
And I did not write the master ID down because I didn't consider it that big a deal.
Major bullet point there. What we're dealing with in this scenario is actually commonplace.
I mean, there was plenty of other calls if somebody quality monitor wanted to go through and look at them, that I would understand what that meant. So I wasn't worried about it. I didn't write the code down. She said the word supervisor. Maybe I should have. Maybe that's the part of the protocol I missed.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, and here's my two thoughts on it. One, sometimes just bouncing up to a supervisor, like someone who is angry, just all of a sudden becomes calm. I've seen it happen so many times in person. Over the phone, I haven't dealt with it too much, but in person, in my last job, we would have donors. I work at a plasma donation center. We get angry donors about getting paid not as much as they thought they were supposed to get, or the process taking too long. Somehow, at least half the time, as soon as they got kicked up to the supervisor, they became calm, explained it, and left, and didn't even expect anything. They just wanted to know that they were heard at a higher level. So sometimes just the simple act of passing it up to
Said individual.
will fix it for the respondent. Two, passing it up to
Said individual.
actually protects you too, because it lets someone at that supervisor level handle the difficult respondent. One, I appreciate you're trying to protect.
Said individual.
It actually works the other way around too. Like, she's there to help you and the other interviews not have to deal with certain types of difficult respondents. And then three, by following that protocol, it protects you from things like this, where a monitor and
Central call center location.
then listens to it, and then
Said individual.
talk to you. Now I was playing it for you. It protects you from situations like this just because you kicked it up to
Said individual.
right away, and then
Said individual.
explain, yes, I
John Doman.
handled it perfectly. I talked to this person. I agreed they were difficult, and I tried to help, but they hung up. Then you can kind of see that, like, that standard protocol was followed, and as long as that protocol was followed, then who cares what the respondent wants, what this person wants to try and complain about? It doesn't matter. We know that everything went according to protocol. So those are the couple of things that stand out to me.
Well, there's protocol and there's being a gentleman, which is more important in my opinion.
Yeah.
And in that particular instance, with that particular respondent, with that particular attitude that she had,
Yeah.
God, give me your supervisor.
Right.
And the lies that she would have just thrown at her,
Yeah.
it would not have been okay with me to do that to somebody.
Yeah.
And I feel that I handled it in the acceptable format. I don't think that I did anything wrong, and so I don't feel like I'd make the wrong decision on that. I'm not disagreeing with you, arguing with you, or telling you that what you're telling me is wrong, or
Right.
that I should not do that in the future. But I still feel that way, because I feel it would be very ungentlemanly, and that would be unreasonable to expect from me to be that ungentlemanly to somebody else as a part of my job.
Now that is one of the most absolutely infuriating statements for the type of person I'm dealing with to have to listen to. You'll understand what I mean later. That statement is absolutely true and is covered under civil rights laws. How does he handle that?
I don't think that'll be okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, the hard part with that is then you get into, well, what if your supervisor was a male? Then would it change?
I don't
I
think
know,
that's
it gets
what
tricky.
I meant by being a gentleman. I
Okay,
don't think that's what I meant.
Okay, good, because that's the way I interpreted it, so I apologize.
I mean, in general, I don't want to subject somebody to something like that.
Right.
If it's not necessary, and it's not, I don't mean like, it's my
Okay.
job, so I should do it. It's
Okay.
not necessary. to do.
We're clear. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm not going to tell you which way to handle it right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into it and kind of talk with
Said individual.
check with the monitor and try and find out, hey, what is the company's expectation of our agents when in a similar situation? And so I'll come back to you. I'll let you know. But if they decide that when a supervisor is asked for in those situations, the 100% proper thing to do is to go get the supervisor. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it as long as it's brought up, like mentioned, and I'm not like being shoved under some table or something, just so that everybody has the same understanding.
Right.
Is what I mean.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. As long as we're on the same page, because I don't want to get, I want everybody to understand what's expected of them, so that we're kind of all on the same page. So, all right. So that's what I'm going to try and do, and I'll let you know what I figure out.
All right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
So, as you just heard, I handled a very difficult problem expertly. It was clear despite very difficult and leading questions from everyone else involved about what I did, what my intentions were, and what my rights and responsibilities were in that circumstance. That is the kind of problem that someone in that job has to deal with literally hundreds of times a day. I was crystal clear about what kind of communication would be acceptable, assuming they decided to change the standing protocol based on all the lazy bones that I triggered by doing my job so thoroughly. Let us see how it all played out.
All right, just so you're aware,
HR representative.
is on the line for us if we need anything. We can go over it together. This is a written warning for performance stemming from the recorded call that we got sent with we'll go over it. The one I played for you and asked your thoughts on, where the lady was asking for a supervisor a couple of times and things like that. You remember that one, right?
I remember listening to a recorded call with you.
Yeah. Well, I kind of described it in here. So we're going to go over this real quick just to make sure you don't have any questions. Okay, so reason for counseling. As a call center agent, your dependability, follow-through, and ability to follow instructions and abide by protocols is vital to a highly functional, productive working environment. As a member of this operations center team, you are expected to maintain all standards and expectations associated with your job description, pretty general. The purpose of this written warning is to bring to your attention a deficiency in your performance, specifically the following areas require immediate improvement. On June, you spoke with a respondent who interrupted you during the middle of your introduction.
That's not true. That is an entirely invalid statement.
Which part?
I was not interrupted. I was not interrupted. I had paused for breath and I was continuing, so I had not been interrupted. Now that is hearsay. I will not accept any comments or any accusations or actions that I'm not following protocol based on hearsay, because that's unfair. That's discrimination. I will not accept that statement because it is false. It is not valid.
About you being interrupted by a respondent?
That is not valid. If you were talking about the recorded call that we both listened to together,
right.
I was not interrupted by that respondent, so that is not a valid statement, which means that anything that is falling in that particular paragraph is hearsay.
So, am I doing the right thing by challenging the authority of my supervisor in that circumstance? I almost immediately used the words discrimination and hearsay without hesitating as soon as these first statements were uttered. And mind you, I had to wait several days before the decision was made to execute the written warning for performance, so I had plenty of opportunity to have forgotten the details that would have been relevant to the event in question. And it would seem that I hit right on the mark, judging by the reaction that it generated.
So I'm not, that's...
Okay, real quick. When I spoke with you about that call, what you told me is that the reason you didn't respond to her the first time she spoke.
I did not say the reason that. I did not indicate it in that way. What I said was that I would not have been able to say anything.
Because you didn't hear her. Because you were speaking. Which means that she interrupted you.
No.
Correct?
Not exactly. I would not have been able to say anything. I wouldn't say that she interrupted me, but she was speaking over me or while I was speaking. But I was not interrupted. Does that make sense?
No, to me, it means the exact same thing.
Well, based on this sentence, then that what you're insinuating is entirely alternate from what happened. Because I was not interrupted by the respondent spoke while I was speaking.
Those are the exact same things. Being interrupted means that someone is...
To be interrupted,
Yeah.
I would have to have been interrupted. I was continuing, so I continued and I was not interrupted.
I see what you're saying. So she attempted to interrupt you, but didn't succeed. Is that accurate?
It's hearsay whether or not she intended to interrupt me.
Gotcha. She intended to be heard, but
We don't know that either.
Well, there's no purpose to speak. Well, okay.
That's not
People
true.
talk to themselves. Okay. Well, let's find out if there's anything else in here. So we'll note the first thing about the phrasing. Let's keep going through and see if there's anything else. Okay. So you spoke with a respondent who will debate the term interrupted you during the middle of your introduction, asking to be placed on the do not call list.
Is that what she said?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah. That's why I put it in parentheses.
Because I did not recognize that respondent as having said, "Put me on the do not call list." Maybe I don't remember. Maybe I don't know. But that sounds like hearsay too.
All right. Well, I'll play it for you again. You continued with your introduction. She, again, with the word that you don't prefer, but she interrupted a second time to ask if you heard her the first time, again requesting to be placed on our do not call list. You continued, finishing your introduction, asking her if this is a safe time to speak with you. She became more upset at this point and requested to speak with your supervisor. You asked her, what would you like to say to the supervisor? She again requested a supervisor. Following this request, you disconnected the call. So I was just trying to, as briefly as possible, describe the incident.
That is not a valid description of what occurred.
Okay, let's get a valid description then by listening to the call real quick. That should help us out. Here we go.
Hello, I'm
John Doman.
calling from my CS for the Washington State Department of Health and the
Can you just remove me from your list and quit calling me?
Okay, remove me from your list.
We're gathering information on the health and safety of Washington residents. Your phone number has been chosen randomly, and your answers will be used only for public health research. This call is being monitored and recorded for quality
Okay,
control.
Did you not hear me the first time when I asked you to remove me from your list and quit calling me?
I have just a few questions to find out if you are eligible for the study. Is it a safe time to talk with you?
Are you honestly not listening to me right now? I would like to talk to your supervisor. So now you're
What
going to
would
be
you
quiet.
like to say to the supervisor?
That you're absolutely not listening to me, so give me your supervisor now.
Well, that's not a true
Thank
statement.
you for your time. We appreciate it.
I absolutely was listening, and every single person that listened to the call was conscious of that. I actually detail that later in our conversation.
Okay, so remove me from your list was the more accurate phrasing. It wasn't specifically place me on your do not call list.
I think it's very unfair that you're saying that I did something wrong based on something that I could not possibly have done. I could not possibly have responded to that respondent in that context. She spoke too quickly. I would not have had the ability to say anything. As you can tell, but comparison to the speed that I was speaking at, and the speed that she was objecting and shouting and yelling, all it would have done was to cause a problem. So I'm not going to sign this thing because there's no truth in what you're accusing me of.
Okay, let's go through the bullet points real quick. So that was just a description of the incident. So first things that I wanted to make a point of were, one, it is understood that you were dialing landline refusals. I do understand that part. That can be difficult. Number two, You stated that her first attempt in asking to be placed on the do not call list, which is remove me from your list, was in the middle of your introduction and you didn't fully hear her. I understand that too. The C, after her second attempt to be placed on the do not call list, you ignored her, choosing to continue asking her the
Now,
standard.
that is not true either,
Okay,
because I was not ignoring what she was saying.
okay.
I was trying to quantify what she was saying, because respondents can say any number of things, but if I don't understand how to code the call, I can't do anything for them.
Okay, so the first time you didn't hear her. The second time, did you hear that she asked to be removed from the list? Did you hear
No, that was a question. That was a question. Did you not hear me the first time when I asked to be removed from your call list, which is not something that I can respond to.
Well, it is a question though, right? She was asking
But
you
it's not a
yes or no
question that I can
question.
answer. It's not a question that can be answered. It's a question that's an insinuation or something that is not of a quantifiable nature that I could have gotten any sense out of.
Gotcha.
I only had one sentence left. I only said one more sentence, and then I tried to find out how to code the call. I was not ignoring anybody. I was not doing my job wrong. I was not failing default protocol.
Okay, so she asked you a yes or no question. If you had heard her before when she asked to be removed from the list, correct? She did ask you that, right?
That's not the question that she was asking. The question was asking, did you not hear me before when I asked you to remove me from your list?
That's right. That's a yes or no question.
That's not a yes or no question, because I'm not told that we have a list that we call from. I'm not told that any of those things mean anything. I'm told very contrary, so I don't know how to respond to that.
Fire away, little man. You did your job to the letter, and it is very clear that we must give our respondents every possible opportunity to take part, no matter what attitude they have about listening to you, as a bare minimum.
Okay. Next one. Following the respondent's second request to be placed on the do not call list, you failed to comply with two reasonable requests to speak to a supervisor by the
Now, I
respondent.
object to the word reasonable.
Okay.
I object very highly to the word reasonable. There were no reasonable requests. There were no requests made. That is the argument that
Now he's insinuating that the respondent is being reasonable based upon information that it is impossible to have.
coded the call based on
Okay.
is the fact that there was not a reasonable request. There was just a disposition that was out of control, that was difficult to deal with, that I was having difficulty with even communicating with, let alone coding the call right. There's no quantifiable evidence that she was upset at all. We don't know. That's not an issue that can be resolved. She said the word supervisor. I recognize she said the word supervisor, but I did not fail to comply with requests to speak to a supervisor because that's not what those were.
Okay. To clarify, the reason this call was listened to is because she called in to complain. So she was upset. That's not debatable.
There he goes again. What was she upset by?
She was, period. Now, she asked to speak to a supervisor. So what about that request?
She didn't ask to speak to a supervisor.
She said, let me speak to your supervisor. Is that what she said? I mean, are we debating semantics?
I'm not debating. What I'm saying is that what she said did not constitute a request to speak to a supervisor.
What does?
I don't know. She said the
Okay.
word supervisor, and maybe in my training at some point there was, if they ever say the word supervisor, let them
Right.
speak. But that was not what I remember hearing. What I remember hearing was
Okay.
if they need to speak to supervisor, or before you code the call out, that they say anything along the lines of, we're going to report you, or something like that, that you should write down the master ID, and you should tell your supervisor that the respondent said that.
Okay.
Now, those were in the exact same context, right next to each other, in the same paragraph, so pardon me if I'm confused about protocol I wasn't informed of.
Okay. In the past, I spoke.
Said individual.
You have asked her to speak with respondents in the past for you.
When they asked to speak to her.
Which is exactly what
Which
they did.
is not what happened.
I believe that it is.
I know for a fact that it is not.
Okay. This call was monitored by a couple of different people. Everyone is in agreement that that's what was asked.
You know, I believe that.
And that's kind of why we're here. We've actually, so you're aware, kind of gone out of our way to let them know that you do a good job. We've gone out of our way a little bit to make sure that this is the only thing that's happening right now.
Oh, is
There
that
was
a threat?
actually, no, not at all. I'm saying that I like you being here. I'm saying that I think you do a pretty good job. I'm saying that this one instance is something that we do have to document. We are required to do this. I mean, it's a process that we have to go through. But I'm saying this,
I didn't
this
do
is
my
kind of
job
the end of it.
wrong. I'm being discriminated against. You're violating my civil rights. I'm very upset.
I am, and I quote, very upset.
Okay, well, as your manager, as your supervisor, it's my job to evaluate whether or not you did do your job correctly. And in this instance, we've evaluated it, and we believe in multiple instances you didn't do your job correctly. That's what I'm telling you right now. That's why this exists.
And I'm telling you that when I was handed a stack of quality monitors for the 30th, that in that stack there was proof that what I'm claiming is true, and that the quality monitors and the people that listen to me know that.
Know what? They've listened to you on multiple occasions, and you've had multiple
I mean, on
successful
that exact
quality monitoring.
specific day, for the specific day, I had specific quality monitors that I was not given copies of like I requested. I requested copies of those. I did not sign them because I did not agree with them.
Okay,
But I
wasn't aware of that.
I asked for copies from all,
Said individual.
and I haven't gotten them, so I don't know what's up with those. But I was given a stack of them,
Okay.
and in the stack there were multiple instances of calls in which illustrated what was going on with that particular respondent, and at the very least illustrated the mindset that I was in and the understanding that I had with that person, or the lack of any understanding at all, and the quantifiable lack of any understanding at all, and somebody saying that she can just call and you scream and yell and get whatever she wants just because she can insinuate to somebody that something's true or they agree with the attitude she has.
Now, at that point, I felt a little lost, and I needed to escape his pit trap before it got filled in on me.
Okay. The points that I'm trying to make, and that whether you agree with or not, you can't do them anymore going forward. So, one, when someone asks for a supervisor, that's not something that you need to think about. That's not something you need to quantify. That's an immediate, you go get a supervisor. Does that make sense? Because it doesn't need to make sense even. That's just what you have to do, period. Is that understood? From now on, when someone asks,
Is there a
can I
difference
speak
between
to your supervisor?
Let me speak to your supervisor and can I speak to a supervisor?
I actually thought she maintained a level of calmness pretty well. She didn't swear. She barely raised her voice. You could tell she was upset. But no, I didn't think she was an out of control respondent by any means.
Then I coded the call wrong. I should have made it a refusal and not a hard refusal.
No, you should have gotten your supervisor. That's what you should have done. You shouldn't have been debating, how do I code this? You should have gotten your supervisor, and that was the end of your involvement in the call. That's what should have happened, and it didn't.
I disagree.
When someone asks for a supervisor, from now on, you go get them. There's nothing to agree with or disagree with. That's the rule. That's the protocol going forward. Your ability to think about that and analyze that has been removed.
Took all that to get him to cross the line. Now he's officially tried to get me to engage in illegal and unethical practices.
That's very nice of you. I appreciate that.
Trying to make it easier.
But my point is that the protocol I had at the time, I was still following. Whether or not you want to tell me that I was wrong after the fact.
Except that you've gotten
Said individual.
multiple occasions when people have asked for her. So if you did it multiple times before, Why didn't you this time?
I told you she didn't ask for a supervisor. That's not what happened.
Would you like
I
me to
explained it
play
to
it
you
again?
several times.
And I disagreed. Would you like me to play it again? Because I heard her 2 times ask for a supervisor.
Go ahead.
Hello, I am
John Doman.
calling for the Washington State Department of Health and the Center
Move me from your list and quit calling me.
We're gathering information on the health and safety of Washington residents. Your phone number has been chosen randomly, and your answers will be used only for public health research. This call is being monitored and recorded for quality
Okay,
control.
Did you not hear me the first time when I asked you to remove me from your list and quit calling me?
I have just a few questions to find out if you are eligible for the study. Is it a safe time to talk with you?
Are you honestly not listening to me right now? I would like to talk to your supervisor.
So there's one. She's telling you to get her supervisor.
No, she said I would like to talk to your supervisor.
Yeah.
Supervisor.
That you're absolutely not listening to me, so give me your supervisor now.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
So there was communication, the purpose of which was to allow her to speak to a supervisor.
She said I would like to talk to your supervisor.
Right.
So is she gonna say anything to the supervisor that means anything?
That's not up to you to decide.
I'm not saying that. You're changing my protocol on me, and my protocol just changed. You said when they say supervisor at all, I go find you. But before that, she said I would like to speak to a supervisor.
Right.
So I asked, well, what would you like to say to the supervisor? Because that's a logical question. That's a response that makes any sense.
Okay. And then when she asked the second time, was the logical response to hang up on her?
That was a hard refusal.
No, that was a request to speak to a supervisor.
No, that was me. That was me taking the information that she gave me, and she said before, rhetorical question, did you not hear me before when I asked you to take me off your list and remove me from your call list? That was me finally being able to determine that that was a hard refusal that she was making there, and that was my mind automatically coding it. That's what happened there. That's what happened. Now, if you say that that was somehow wrong, I've been told how to code a call. I've been told how to follow protocol. And if you're going to change the protocol on me, fine. But I did my job the way I was taught to do it.
Have you been told to ignore requests to speak with a supervisor?
I haven't ignored any request to speak with supervisors, so nobody has addressed that.
Okay, because that's what happened here.
That is not what happened.
The last thing is that her becoming upset, so I'm going to read F. Had you complied with the original hard refusal request to be placed on
There was not
the list?
there was not an original hard refusal
Okay.
request.
Hard refusal was actually me trying to use the way you described the call. So if that's not accurate, I apologize. I was trying to use the words that would make sense to you. So if it doesn't, I apologize. This situation would have been resolved if very quickly, didn't hear her the first time, but you did hear her the second time. She asked to be put, to remove from your list. You heard that the second time. If you had just said, okay, I'll take you off our list, we won't call you anymore, this would have been resolved. The respondent's desire to
But
speak to a
I can't
supervisor.
code a call out at all unless I understand what the respondent is saying. That is within the respondent's civil rights. If I code the call out or anything like that, then I'm doing my job wrong, and I'm taking away the protocol that's there for that particular purpose.
That's right, mother, father. Let them have it. It's both your right and your responsibility to do your job and not violate the civil rights of your respondent. You could not possibly have been sure about how to respond to code the call, so that was all you could do.
Okay,
So that's not fair either.
the respondent's desire to speak to a supervisor did not come from being asked to participate in the BRIFA survey.
Now, do we know
But
there was
rather-
an actual desire to speak to a supervisor, or was she just saying that so that she could call you later and say that I did a bad job?
But rather your refusal to listen to her
I was not refusing to listen to anyone.
and respect a reasonable request.
And there was no reasonable request for me to have responded.
Okay, well, we've evaluated the situation. I've listened to
Said individual.
it. A couple of different monitoring people have listened to it. There was a request to not be called again. 2 requests. You didn't hear the first one. I can understand that. But you very clearly were not speaking when she asked the second time to be removed from your list. So you understood that. You understood what she asked.
Understood what? That she didn't understood what? What do you mean?
That she didn't want to be called again.
No, I didn't understand what she was saying because she wasn't saying anything that makes any logical sense.
Not asking not to be called again.
I understood that supposedly that at some point in there that there was maybe there was I don't want to be called again, you're bothering me, no desire to be called again. But there's a difference between me coding a regular refusal, which is not now, no thank you, no, or there's
those are normal.
or there's the do not call me again, or something that indicates, now that's new in my training, that was one of the new things that I was taught after I was initially hired, was that if they indicate that they're bothered in any way by you calling them, then you can code that as a hard refusal.
Right.
But from the information that I had, I would not have been able to do that.
So someone asking, okay, so I think there was enough evidence on this call for you to have determined that it was a hard refusal before she ever even asked for a supervisor.
But you're wrong.
I don't agree with you. I think that I'm right. I've talked to enough people. This isn't just me writing this up all by myself. I've spoken with enough people, had them evaluate the situation as well, and everybody's on the same page. There was evidence given to you to be able to code the call appropriately. It should have been a hard refusal. Instead,
That's not what happened. There's no instead. There is no instead.
instead of
No.
coding it appropriately,
No, that's
you
not true.
chose
That's not true.
to ignore her request to speak
That
to a
is not
supervisor 2 times.
Neither of these things are true.
And that was your failure to follow protocol, and that is why you're being written up.
That's not true. That's
100% true.
groundless, baseless accusation. That's not true in the least.
That's what happened.
That's not true.
You can feel free to disagree.
I'm not going to disagree. I'm going to tell you the truth that that accusation made is not true.
Which part of it?
The entire accusation.
Okay, the accusation, the documentation of the incident.
There is no incident.
The incident was, there's an incident because she, the respondent, chose to call the company and tell the company that an incident took place. That means there's an incident. That's not debatable.
Remember when I mentioned earlier that my stance on being gentlemanly was infuriating to this type of person? If they recognize the fact that I was indeed following my protocol, doing the job I was given, and handling the situation exactly the way I am supposed to, then they would actually have to work.
There was an incident. So, the incident that took place is documented, and the instances where you failed to follow protocol.
There were no instances when I failed to follow the protocol that I was given.
Okay, you know what a hard refusal is.
I know what a hard refusal is.
Someone being asked to never be called again and to be taken off your list, that's a hard refusal.
That's not what I was told. Now, somebody asked to never be called again. If they say never be called again, what do they mean? What did she say? What exactly would you let's hear again?
Okay, let's listen to it.
Hello, I am
John Doman.
calling for the Washington State Department of Health and the state
me from your list and quit calling me.
Quit calling me.
Remove me from your list.
On the health and safety of Washington residents. Your phone number has been chosen randomly, and your answers will be used only for public health research. The call is being monitored and recorded for quality.
Okay, did you not give me the first time you asked me to remove me from your list and quit calling me?
I have just a few questions to find out if you are eligible for the study. Is it a safe time challenge?
Are you honestly not listening to me right now? I would like to talk to your supervisor. So now you're going to be quiet. That you're absolutely not listening to me, so give me your supervisor now.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
So she said, remove me from list and quit calling. Now, when I get something like that, I was given a very long, complicated training on what these people might think about the call. Now, I understand that I was calling refusals, and I understand that you think that there's a stigma there, but there's not, because some of these people that are refusals, that keep refusing over and over, will change their mind or change what they're thinking when you explain to them that what we're doing is not based on a list, or we're just trying to find out, like, or because I don't know if she got that information at all, so I don't know at that point what that means. So I don't have the ability to immediately code their call at all at that point. So I have to keep going, and that's what's the logical, the written protocol for that. Is removing from your list and quit calling. She said quit calling. She didn't say stop calling me, which would have been a hard refusal, or anything to indicate the mindset that she was saying that from, which is what I was trying to evaluate.
Okay.
Ultimately.
Okay.
Ultimately.
So
whether I heard all of that, any of that particular exact statement or not, is what is to be evaluated. People will say, take me off your list, because sometimes they'll think we're telemarketers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they don't necessarily know that we're calling you on behalf of the State Department of Health, they're doing health study, blah, 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 and that's not just blah, 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 that's what we're calling about, that's everything that we're doing, that's you having the money that you spent on your taxes, that's going into the study, that's
Study person.
standing in front of a room and talking about some data that or survey does, blah, 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 yada, yada. And if we don't at least give them the chance or the opportunity, we're absolutely not following our protocol. So that's the terrible standard that you're trying to hold me to.
That would be literally an exponential standard to what could be generated from that, which might as well end civil liberties as we know them.
Trying to do my job the way I was taught to do it.
okay.
I could code that as just a refusal.
Now, if
But I
they
was-
say that twice, with much more emphasis, the second time
The second time was
the exact same request.
was did you not hear me? Was did you not hear me? It was a different question.
In-
It was separate.
It was her being upset that you didn't hear her the first time, so she was being critical.
That's not being critical from my perspective, because I don't know what mindset she was in there until I probe further. She said, did you not hear me the first time? So did I not hear what you're saying?
If
Did I
you
not?
had probed further, to be honest, the situation would have been better. But instead you paused and then kept reading the introduction and asked her a question that did not apply to the situation at all.
Do you know what that respondent would have said to a probe? Could you come up with a conceivable probe?
No, we don't know because you didn't do it.
But I do.
You know.
Yes.
You've been telling me the whole time we've been in here that I can't evaluate her mindset.
I
But now-
can't evaluate,
But now
I
you
know.
can?
Kind of what I was leading into when I mentioned my stack of quality assurance monitoring reports.
But I know how to probe. I know what would get a response that would indicate anything. I can't make an assumption at all about a respondent. They have to tell me. That's the protocol.
And they told you twice.
She did not.
They told you twice to not call them.
No, that's not true. We're still on the same issue here. She did not say,
Remove me from your list, quit calling me.
says, can you guys remove me from your list and quit calling? So she said it in a way that would have made it possible for the assumption that we have a list, we can't.
I don't think she said, can you?
Listen to it again.
Hello, I am
John Doman.
calling for the Washington State Department of Health and the
Can you guys remove me from your list and quit calling me?
prediction
So can you guys remove me from your list and quit calling me?
on
Right.
the health and safety of Washington residents.
Which means
Your phone number has been chosen randomly.
do it.
Right there, he's literally telling me to engage in illegal, unethical practices and to directly defy the mandate of our clients. Instantly, the government.
Your answer
No.
will be used only for public health.
Or you could have just answered her question.
But it wasn't a question that I could respond to. I've been over that with you already.
Did you not
Okay.
hear me the first time?
So now she says, did you not hear me the first time when I asked you to remove your list and quit calling me? So now she has the assumption that I heard or did not hear and just ignored her, all I have is whatever I heard there,
Right.
whatever that was, which is not necessarily everything she said, or the mindset or the attitude she was saying it in.
I have just a few questions to find out if you are eligible.
She goes through levels of being upset, and each time you fail to acknowledge her request, she gets more upset. Did you notice that?
I would like to talk to
Do you know that what you're talking about is a stigma?
Well, I'm evaluating events that happened.
Recording for
Okay, did you not hear me the first time when I asked you?
See, she's getting more
to remove your
upset.
list and quit calling me?
I have just a few questions.
But I did not know that that tone meant that she was upset, because I didn't have the ability to recognize it.
Are you
It's
honestly not listening to me right now?
Are you honestly not listening to me right now?
I would like to talk to your supervisor.
So she went through a couple different levels of trying to get your attention and let you know that she didn't want to be called again. Right?
Absolutely not
No,
listening to
she
me.
said one
Supervisor
statement,
now.
and in order to evaluate that one statement, it took that much time.
We appreciate it.
So, I would say that there is a miscommunication on that end, because I did code the call based on what she'd said. I did my job the way I was supposed to. I wasn't trying to harm the respondent. I was not trying to be rude to that respondent. I was trying to make sure that I did my job correctly, not incorrectly. And I had to work with that statement because that's all there was. And there was some hearsay about that statement, and there was some more hearsay about the statement, and there was a stack of things that said I did my job wrong. That is not true. I did my job right. She's asked a question about the question that she initially asked. And if she asks it in the form of a question in a way that makes it sound as if it's possible that she believes something about what we're doing that's not true, then like I explained, and like was explained to me by
Steady person.
our study coordinator, that if it sounds like it's possible they don't understand where we're coming from, that we cannot code out a call without at least trying to probe.
I am right. It's a double question. She's being unreasonable, and he wants to go on about how I insist on being a gentleman by not exposing someone to a respondent that out of control.
Okay, but you didn't probe.
So I did probe. Remember how I asked that question, what would you like to say to my supervisor? Do you understand that I was not asking,
Okay.
what are you going to say if I let you talk to my supervisor? What do you mean? What I was asking was, could you please tell me what state of mind you were in so that I know what to do about the call? I was trying to find out what the intonation, the tonality meant, because I could not possibly have known unless I asked that question. And if I had not asked that question, then you could have not written that up about me and have been not sure about the mindset that she was in after you'd sat and listened to the same call over and over and over and evaluated it.
That is the process protected by the Constitution that creates civil liberties for we Americans to enjoy.
Right. Okay. Are we gonna get anywhere with this?
I did my job correctly.
Okay.
That's the only reason you can write that up about me.
Okay, so this exists If you want to disagree, that's okay.
I would like to test something, word that I'm looking for. I would like to protest, or what's
Okay.
the term I'm looking for? I would like to formally talk to somebody and say that I was not supposed to, or that's bad and I did my job right. And I would like to at least let that for it to go on record, because I'm not going to sign that. And it needs to be edited anyways, because you wrote things that are not true on it.
Okay, so, just so you understand, your signature indicates that you have been told of this written warning.
Well, can you
It does-
rewrite, at least
yeah,
rewrite the
yes.
written warning before I sign?
Yes, it doesn't indicate your consent. So, you're not, by signing this, you're not saying that you agree with it, you're saying that you know it exists. That's all. And if you would like to speak to someone else about this, that would be absolutely fine. We can arrange that. Now, prepare yourself for the very likely circumstance that this is still going to be evaluated the exact same way, and this will still exist, and that you'll need to adjust your actions in similar circumstances. So just be prepared for that, okay?
I have a very high standard. I have no intention of lowering my standard.
Yep, I insist on doing the bare minimum required by my job description.
My standard. I will not lower
Nobody's
my standard
asking you
for
to lower your
anything.
standards. We're asking you to get a supervisor when the communication indicates that someone is a little bit upset and
Now
wants
that
to
is
speak
the
to a
new
supervisor.
protocol, and you're still trying to get me in trouble for something that I would not, that didn't even exist until I had that call. That literally did not exist at all until I had that call and it was recorded.
And like I said before,
And that's not a standard that it
you've
is
gotten
fair
a
to hold me to.
supervisor before. You know that in certain circumstances, that's the appropriate decision. You know this because you've done it. In this
Now
circumstance, you didn't do it.
you're insinuating something about me that is not true.
I'm taking...
Now I have gotten a supervisor to get on a call before.
Correct.
When I did not understand anything about what the respondent was saying or what they wanted, or didn't know our protocol at all to the point of knowing what my job was to do in that situation. And they had asked to speak to a supervisor, so that's what I did. That was when I was new, when I didn't know anything about it at all. And that is an entirely different context, an entirely different mindset that I was in. You have to... you can't say that you're wrong and write you up, and that's a written warning, and that's how we teach you. That's not acceptable. That's not okay.
Teaching you is only half the purpose. The other half of the purpose is documenting incidents that happen for the protection of the company.
Lying about circumstances and trying to get me to agree that something happened when it has clearly never occurred. Oh, I'm sorry, were you protecting your company there?
That's half of it. The other half is helping you move forward and be able to evaluate things a little bit differently, knowing how this was viewed.
So you're
by
saying
people.
that based on hearsay, you're going to say I did my job wrong,
Based on
and
evidence.
you're hearsay, and you're going to expect that because I know hearsay will come up, that I'm going to not do my job, even though I signed a contract saying that I'll do my job to the best of my ability. I said I'll do my job, I'll code calls correctly. I won't sacrifice my morals
Nobody's
to
asking
do my
you to.
job correctly.
Nobody's asked you to do that. Not even one time. What I've asked you to do is in similar situations, when it's very clear
And now you've
that
asked me to do
someone, I've done this a couple different times.
Mm,
Actually,
none of those other things meant
when I
anything to
first
me.
played the recording to you, I let you know, I asked you
John Doman.
if the end result of this is that we ask you to go get your supervisor when circumstances like this come up, are you going to be okay with that?
What I
asked you that, and you told me that
what
you
I
would.
told you was that if there was an understanding
Yeah.
that everybody knows that when somebody says the word supervisor, that
And
drop everything and drop your hat and take off your microphone and go get a
And you're
supervisor.
exaggerating now because that's not what I said.
So I am
I was pretty
exaggerating.
clear. I was pretty clear.
No, but I
an
had
upset
to
respondent-
exaggerate that much to get across to you
When-
that I didn't understand what you meant.
And I think that you should have.
You're
I
wrong.
also think that you should have understood what this the reasonable, very clear and articulate request from this respondent, I think you should have understood it more quickly, and I think you should have acted more appropriately.
I think you were wrong. In fact, I know that you were wrong because I was following the training that I was given on our protocol, and what you're saying here is that I didn't follow protocol, which is not true. I followed protocol.
Which was to hang up on someone when they ask you a question.
Maybe it created a problem for you that you didn't like. I didn't hang up. I said, thank you very much for your time. I said what we're supposed to say before we hang up on somebody and code the call the way we're supposed to. I did my job. I didn't just hang up on her.
When someone's upset, wants to continue the call.
But we don't know that she wanted to continue the call.
Yes, we do,
No,
because she asked
know the
for a
first.
supervisor.
Remember the first thing
Amy,
she said.
Amy,
That
she
the
asked for a
first thing that you
supervisor.
said is what you started that on.
And
the first
your
thing that you said
inappropriate
means that we don't want to
behavior-
talk to her. Then that's the correct thing to do, which means that you're creating a circular logic and you're just making.
Your refusal to grant her request caused her to change her request. I don't want to be put on your do not call list anymore. Now I want to speak to your supervisor. And she also said that twice. So it
But I
changed.
hadn't even gotten to that one yet.
Well, then we're going to need to work on that. So,
So maybe what you're saying
want to
me,
talk
maybe
to
what
someone
you're,
else
what
about
you're saying
this.
to me is that when they bring up the word supervisor, that
That's
means
not what
they
I
change
said
their
either.
mindset.
it's not what I said either. I said when someone asks you very specifically, can I speak with your supervisor? You go get a supervisor.
But I do that
All I
anyways.
said. But you didn't do it.
No, I did my job.
No, you failed to do your job.
No, I
because
did
you
my
didn't
job.
Get the supervisor.
No, I did my job. My job. What
Okay.
you're starting your argument with is that if she says that, that means
Okay.
that I have to code the call as a hard refusal. But I can't code the call as a hard refusal until I understand what she means by that.
And everyone who evaluates whether you do your job correctly feels that you didn't.
Well, they're wrong.
So how many people have to be wrong before you consider the fact that you might be?
You're not listening. I'm not saying that I'm not wrong, that maybe there's more protocol that you didn't tell me about, or there's theoretical protocol that I didn't consider correctly. What I'm saying is that I didn't do my job wrong. I did my job based on the job that I was given and the description that I was given, and I did not deserve to be written up and given a written warning over something that is not me doing my job wrong, just a miscommunication from my respondent.
All right. Okay. So what we're gonna do? I'm gonna fix a couple of these things. I'll have you sign it, and I'll set up a time for you to speak with the next person up the chain about this.
So who do I get to speak with?
Corporate fat cat.
Or
The person who originally evaluated the monitoring might have the potential to be on there too, if you would like. The person who brought this to our attention from the beginning.
The monitor or the evaluator of the monitor?
Same I don't know who. I don't even know who the evaluator of the monitor is.
So you meant the monitor?
The monitor, yes.
All right, well, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, the person who does the monitorings. Yeah. So we'll figure that out. We'll have that happen next week, early as possible. Probably Monday or Tuesday. I think you're here both days.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll get that taken care of.
HR representative.
I think she probably fell asleep.
HR representative.
Nothing on my end, thank you, sorry, I was on mute.
No problem at all. Sounds good. So okay. All right. Perfect. I'll just bring it to you because we don't have to talk about it. So it's not like we're gonna make a scene out there or anything. All I'm gonna do is fix the verbiage from the do not call list to remove me from your list so it's actually the right words. And then I'll bring it over to you and I'll give this one you don't need anymore because that's not the accurate copy. But I'll give you a copy as well. And then we'll set up a time for you.
Thank you.
All right? Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Have a good day.